Jaiela, thank you so much for joining me today to talk about your Praxis success story. I remember working with you personally in the boot camp, so I'm really excited to do this interview with you today. To kick us off, would you actually mind by getting us started and telling kind of the short 2-minute version of what your Praxis story is?
Yeah, so super excited to be here, of course. I guess the short version of my Praxis experience is really, I guess, stemmed from how I grew up. I grew up unschooled, so prioritizing learning, and especially in a really self-directed and self-motivated kind of way is really something that's instilled in me since forever. And so as I've grown up, I've always been interested in learning new things, learning practical skills, especially that could just dive straight into kind of hands-on learning. So when I found Praxis, it felt like a perfect match. It was we'd both learn these good skills and then be able to have a chance to put it into practice and get actual experience, and just to kind of help you along your career journey and things like that. So that's what initially drew me into Praxis, and that whole idea of just continuous self-development and growth has just been what's been my main focus throughout this entire time, basically.
Awesome. So being unschooled and kind of having already a natural connection to Praxis, when you were almost, I guess, in the high school graduation of unschooling, were you ever considering college at any point?
No, I'm gonna say, because, and this honestly goes way back, even before I would have considered starting high school kind of thing. I literally remember being 11, I don't think college is worth it unless I want to be a doctor or I want to be a lawyer or something like that. And I know for me, I've always been more so interested in investing and personal finance and figuring out things like that. So I always knew that doesn't necessarily need a college degree. So I've always just tried to find other areas and avenues I could go to learn what I was actually interested in. So college was never my thing, but I was super interested in finding college alternatives specifically. So actually, it was kind of funny recently. Now, of course, I've graduated Praxis or whatever, kind of looking over old notes, and I literally have this list of bunch of alternatives that I was looking into. And of course, I whittled down or whatever till I was I'm going to Praxis. But I just had a bunch of bullet notes with all these links, all these different places all around the country and some international places. But yeah, I was I'm focused. I'm gonna do something, but it just doesn't look like college necessarily.
Yeah, that's funny that you just recently found that. So from that
about it.
So from that list, and then obviously coming down to your ultimate decision of Praxis, what was it about Praxis that drew you in? You said you were interested in personal finance. Was that kind of related?
Yeah, I'd say so. And especially because, not gonna lie, one of the biggest strong points was after the Praxis graduation, usually people tend to make, I think it said 40 or 50 grand or something like that. And so that speaks to me that, people are getting results, people are actually able to take from going from day one and getting into this to actually getting into a job. And even if that isn't your dream job necessarily, you can pivot and go on from there. And that's what ultimately I think led me to okay, Praxis is the one, just because of the other programs and things that I was looking at seemed a little bit more flexible. And that's not necessarily in a bad way, because I know some in particular were more focused on travel and personal development and I guess leaning more towards spirituality if you're inclined and things like that. And I was I guess that just wanting to be able to hit that feeling of a concrete step that I could take to at least give me a chance to get my foot in the door, figure out, feel things out, even if I don't necessarily like the first thing that I land on, then I can at least have the skills to be able to say I got there, I can figure out something else and go on, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So saying all that, were you very clear on the type of almost like career or working experience that you wanted to step into, or you were kind of just open to anything?
Yeah, I was really open actually. Because I feel like with me in particular, like I'm interested in investing, but in order to be able to invest, you need to have money, probably from a job. So like that part was like kind of set in stone. But as far as what I'd want to do on like on a day-to-day basis was kind of, I guess, just open. When I first started like Praxis, I thought I wanted to do marketing, but other Praxians kind of opened my eyes to the idea of sales as like a starting role, and I actually really like it.
Awesome. I'm definitely excited to dive into your program experience and of course the job that you landed through the program as well. But let's backtrack a little bit. So a lot of people, especially like for participants pre-joining the program, they go through this phase in their lives where they're really confused by what the next move in their life or even career is. Did you go through something similar to that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I feel like I don't know why I feel like I can like contain it to a year, but I feel like it was when I was 17. Definitely just like, oh my goodness. 'Cause I guess you see like friends and families like, okay, I'm going to college and I'm gonna like shoot for the moon and this and that. And if you're still in a place where you're feeling like, no, I like a lot of things and I'm interested and kind of good at like several things, but I don't know which one I'd really want to like dive headfirst into. I'm still figuring things out. So it does get a little disheartening, but I guess you got to give yourself that time to go through that so you can actually figure it out what it is you do want to like dive more into, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. At what point, like within that kind of confusion and, mini journey, were you like, okay, I want to get serious and start looking at possible programs or alternatives to higher education?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that after a while, to be honest, I just got tired of like the state that I was in and was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna try something. And that wasn't even like when I was 17, I didn't even start practice. I think I was like either 21-ish or 20, something like that. I don't know. But so it was like several years later that I started Praxis actually. But I know when I was 17, I was like, you know what? I'm interested in coding. I'm going to do a boot camp. And then I did like a 3-month boot camp to like learn into that. I ended up doing a little bit of like freelancing and like filming people's websites for a second there. And it was cool. It was a good experience. I feel like when you feel like you're not sure what you should do, sometimes the best route is to just do something. Because even like for me, I like coding, but I don't think I would want to continuously do that, or at least like not web development or something like that. But it gave me a good experience, like and like learning a new skill and being able to just be like, you know what, I don't know the final destination or whatever, but I'm gonna take this step.
Yeah, so you tried it, you earned the skill, but then you also were able to realize like, all right, I successfully did this, but this isn't something that I actually want to do like long term.
Yeah, yeah. And it took a little while to figure out, and I mean, it was a fun experience. Like after that, I went and like built some like phone apps and stuff like that. So it's like a different language, but I liked that a lot more than I liked web development. So that was kind of cool to figure out too. But yeah, it was cool to just kind of, I guess, get straight into things, and then that's the only way you're gonna figure out if you actually like or dislike it, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Did you have any other like working or program experiences prior to joining the program?
Yeah, yeah. So mainly like family kind of businesses. So I started a business called Eden's Pure Herbals along with my mom, and like it's kind of a family affair where we sell like herbal body products like soaps and lotions and lip balms like the one I'm wearing and everything like that. But that, and then like did placenta encapsulation for a long time, and that was kind of like a freelance kind of situation. Taught a lot dance, babysitting, of course. Have to go through that. But you know, like stuff here and there and things like that.
Yeah. And how do you feel like those experiences prepared you for the program? Because, a lot of participants sometimes feel kind of self-conscious if they don't have like the most technical or the most businessy work experience coming into the program.
Yeah, definitely felt like that for a second there too. But I feel like one of the things I learned through the program is to how to like look at your experience too. Because it's easy for like before I like actually got started off with the Praxis, I was working in a job at Lord and Taylor's and basically like one of the cosmetic sales associates and whatever. So sold makeup. And a lot of people, I guess, tend to be like, oh, I just sold makeup. Like it wasn't that big of a deal. But, a lot goes into that, like maintaining the stock and like doing makeovers and consulting with people's skin types and like doing all these things. Like it really adds up, and it takes a little bit of practice, but I feel like everybody can be able to like take a deep dive and not just look at the surface like, oh yeah, I worked at Chick-fil-A. Like there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah, of course. And a lot of participants, we have a lot of participants that come from like food service, retail, like you said. And through the program, they're able to learn how to reframe those experiences and see how valuable the skills they learned there actually are.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's both learning how to frame that and both like uh, not giving yourself a break, but I guess how do you phrase that? Like not downplaying yourself. You know what I mean? Like we're pretty cool people. I'm not gonna lie, but like, it takes a lot to do what people do, and that shouldn't just be glossed over because it's retail or because it's food service. Like that's just rude.
Exactly. Just because it doesn't have, the prestigious title, the role title, doesn't mean that there aren't valuable, relevant skills, involved with that working experience. And most of our participants, like, as you know, being part of the community and very active in the community, come from all sorts of different working experiences and unconventional ones at that, including yourself. So
Yeah.
fast forward into the program, you got accepted, now you're in the boot camp. What was that experience like for you? You have the community, you have the modules, you have advisors. What was that like, all those new things?
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. I had to like learn a lot about managing my own time so I wouldn't like fall behind, because of course we had like weekly things that we wanted to check off and do and projects to tackle and things like that. But one of the things that was kind of constant, like just making sure that I'm not waiting till the end of the day and like 2 minutes before the deadline to actually get stuff in. So that was a good learning experience for me, just to try to learn to be more on top of things in that way. But yeah, I had a really good experience. I like the writing module in particular, but I liked it a lot.
Why was the writing module your favorite?
I think it's the consistency, because I also did this with when I was learning to code. It's like a hashtag 100 days of code. So you just code at least for an hour every day. And so like with the same kind of thing applied to writing blog posts, it was like, okay, being able to, even though like, of course there were some days I didn't want to do it and I'm just like, the end and things like that. But it was pretty amazing to see like how you can progress even in such a short amount of time, and like looking back over like older blog posts at the end of the month, of course kind of cringy, but it's like pretty amazing, like, oh my gosh, I really see a difference.
Yeah, that is really great to see when you see like day 1 versus day 31 and just how far you've come.
Yeah.
Aside from the writing module, what would you say are some of maybe the unexpected lessons that you learned through the boot camp, and then the like top most valuable thing you've learned?
That's a good question. I think I think one of the more unexpected, I guess it was unexpected because it just wasn't like on my radar as much, but just the value of having the community to be able to like both bounce ideas and feedback and criticism off of each other. And I feel like that was a major part, and even like why I like the module, the writing module too, because like every day somebody would come and be like, listen, Jaiela, you missed this. That is grammatically incorrect. This, and all with love, of course. Like nobody was ever like rude or mean or whatever like that. But it's just amazing to see like, okay, you know, not only can you just like take criticism and be able to learn and grow from that, but like it's good. Like it's good. Like iron sharpens iron. As you like grow along together, it makes sense that you'd be able to point out maybe mistakes and point out like when somebody's just doing a great job. And it was really cool to see that kind of come together, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Feedback is such a valuable part of the community. And you're right, it's always done with love. What would you say is like the top lesson that like still to this day, you're like, that's from Praxis and I'll carry that forever?
I think for the most part, it's the idea that like you can really like just do anything. And but I say this because like I know for me and like a lot of other Praxians that I've talked to as well, like people are just like, you know, I've never really like thought about what I want to do as far as a career, or I never thought I could finish this book or start this podcast or, you know, do whatever, or like get into this startup or whatever. But like when you really just have the mind to do it and like you take consistent steps to either like hone your skills so that you're able to tackle that mountain when you get there, or just be able to make slow, steady steps towards your end destination, like you can seriously do it. Like it's amazing how fast things can change for your life when you just put in the work.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I love that. Going through the program myself a few years ago, I feel like that was also my biggest takeaway. Like nothing is off limits, anything is possible. And once you get to that like mindset shift, it's just opens up a whole world to you.
Yeah, seriously.
So that was your experience in the boot camp. Then you moved into, of course, placement, where you learned how to pitch yourself to different opportunities and roles. What opportunity did you end up with? What was your role? And how was the beginning of that experience for you?
Yeah, so that was fun. I think I started placement around Christmas, and then it was kind of weird, I'm not gonna lie. Just because when I initially reached out, my hiring manager was like, oh, this is great, because I sent a video pitch where I kind of just like made a video and like a little presentation where I kind of talked about like who I am, like my skills. This is why I think I'd be great for this job, and let's talk, and things like that. So I sent that to him, and he was really impressed. And then it was that they were only hiring 2 people at the time. So he was like, I'm sorry, but we can't take you on. I like advocated to get a 3rd person, but we can't do it. And then several weeks later, he comes back and it's like, somebody fell through, can you come? And I was like, yes. I was literally there in like 2-3 weeks, like moved from New Jersey to Richmond, Virginia to start my job at Bonfire, which is like a startup where we help people raise money through selling t-shirts online.
And what was the role that you got with them?
Yeah, so I'm in sales. So basically I'm the person that reaches out to maybe a nonprofit around a special awareness day, helps them get set up with a cool looking design so they can start raising money.
So how has your experience been with Bonfire? I can tell from how you're talking about it, you seem like you really love the company and team. Are they a small team, large team? What's the culture like?
Yeah, so definitely do love it. I can't say. But I think it's kind of, I don't know like what size this would be. I feel like there's at least like 100, maybe more people. I don't know. But as far as like the scale that is, but as far as like my sales team, there's about maybe 10 of us ish, and it's honestly kind of funky. So before Corona, and we like had to leave and go work from home, all the sales people had our own office essentially away from like the rest of the the rest of the office and like the rest of the company. So it's literally like a handful of us that's over there. So of course my team is the ones that I'm closest with, but very cool. I like seriously love them.
How has it been working in sales? Because you said you originally kind of were interested in marketing, and then some participants got in your ear about sales. A lot of people are intimidated by sales. So I'm curious to hear kind of how that like new transition was for you.
Yeah, I think that was my thing, like kind of intimidating, because I guess when I picture like a sales you kind of person, I picture like them kind of, not gonna lie, like a sleazy kind of sales guy, and I'm like, I'm not that, so I don't know if this is really gonna work. So it took like, for me, I was more into marketing because I felt like I could do it now, I guess. But like I said, like talking to other Praxians who were just like encouraging me, like, it doesn't have to be that intimidating. It's really like cool and gratifying in a way, because like sales is like one of the kind of jobs where like the better you get in skill, the more money you can make. It's like a direct correlation to like your progress, and you get to really see things in like a quantifiable kind of way. And that like either I hit my numbers for the day or I just don't. There isn't like much gray area in that kind of sense. And I feel like that helps me personally because, of course, like I like to know that I'm being on top of things. And if I can just look and be like, okay, I was supposed to hit 25 new contacts. I hit 26. Okay, we're good. You know? So it was really more of a thing of like, even though this kind of feels like really out there and a little scary, I can just try it and see how I like it, And even though, like, of course I have my days where I'm like, or whatever, and like just feeling kind of crazy, but overall I really do like this because I feel like I'm able to like reach people and help them. It's awesome to see like the different people that come in and use Bonfire and use our platform, and it just is personally gratifying to be able to help them and feel like I'm having an impact in like these different spheres and these different people's lives.
I love that. I love that. What was your first day on the job, or let's say like your first week? I imagine you got some sort of training to kick you off since you don't come from a traditional sales background. What was that like?
Yeah. So I had a good time like training. First couple of days was like learning about like the general things on like how Bonfire works. So it wasn't like specific to my role, but I was just learning about how we worked overall. Learned a lot about like screen printing and t-shirts, which is obscure and like only makes sense for that kind of thing, but it was just like a lot of that kind of stuff. And then as the days went on, it was more like role specific, like this is the type of prospect we usually reach out to. Like Bonfire does really well with animal rescues because people love puppies and people want to raise money so that this dog can get its medical expenses taken care of and things like that. So we were looking at like how to find people like that. And it was actually really cool because I was going over this with my team and we were like learning like the best people to reach out to and things like this. And so I started looking people up as I was like going along. And so I was like, well, I found this bird rescue. They seem like they would be a good match as far as like what our ideal prospect looks like and things like that. And my boss was like, you should reach out to them. So I was like, okay. And so I did. And it was crazy because it was like, they launched a campaign, which equates to a sale in my like field. And it was crazy because they did it on my 7th day of work. And I like beat a record for like having the fastest launch in the history of Bonfire, like after just starting working there. So that was so cool. So of course my name's on the top of this like Google Doc of like list of like rewards and like legends and peoples and stuff like that. And it was so cool.
That's amazing. That definitely is like a huge confidence boost for your first week. What are some of the other big accomplishments and achievements that you've had with Bonfire so far?
Yeah, I think it's been like such a combination, but I feel like it's been really cool to especially go from like getting on the phone with There's been like a couple like other animal orgs, and they're like doing rescues and just prioritizing like getting little kittens to proper homes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to help you. And so like they launch and sell a bunch, and there have been others where, especially when coronavirus caused like a lot of cancellations and shutdowns, especially in like New York. My dad's from Brooklyn, so I started reaching out to a bunch of bars and businesses out there, and like several of them like launched campaigns, sold like over like 200 or whatever, and just did really well because they were fundraising to be able to distribute funds to like their employees who might have been laid off and things like that. So those just really like impacted me, of course, being able to connect with them and maybe introduce them to a platform they just wouldn't have seen otherwise, or things like that, you know?
Yeah, that's super rewarding, especially like now during, current times and current events. I love to see that, you guys are doing awesome and you're like part of the solution right now as well.
Yeah, I can definitely say like it's been awesome to see all through this, even with all that's going on in the world. Like you really can see the helpers just kind of come in, even if it isn't like a person I personally reach out to, but people are just either launching campaigns or just coming in like, yeah, we want to support. And it's really amazing to see like people just swarming like that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're loving Bonfire, you're loving sales. Obviously, you're really happy there and you are there currently. Do you have any plans for your future career? Any goals that you're currently sitting on?
Yeah, I think I'm definitely happy with Bonfire. I'm like, one of my main things is trying to learn to get better at that. And aside from like getting better at sales, I really want to prioritize like just learning in other avenues and getting a little better with like learning out loud and like sharing online, because I feel like I've done it a little bit, like consistently posting on LinkedIn or whatever, but I want to like get super consistent with that kind of thing, because I feel like it's important to share what you're learning and what you're going through, because it can help other people. And I know like other people that post certainly helps me. So definitely like that's one thing I really want to work towards, is just getting a little more consistent with like both inputting new knowledge and like trying to get it out there at the same time.
Yeah, makes sense. Do you kind of see yourself continuing in a sales career track?
Yeah, I mean, I'm rolling with Bonfire, to be honest. I'm only sad that we're not like in an office anymore. I can't see anybody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the only sad thing. But yeah, definitely excited to continue in this and continue like leveling up my skills in sales so I can get better at that. But yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Awesome. What would you say, thinking back to Jaiela that just started Praxis versus the Jaiela that you are today, what's the biggest difference that you see in yourself?
That's a good one. I think the biggest difference is that I take a little bit less time thinking about things. And I'd say like a little bit just to give myself some grace there. But it was of course easy, especially if you're feeling like pretty like kind of lost or crazy, or like, oh my gosh, I could do anything, but what should I do? Like what route should I actually pick? It's easy to kind of get all wrapped up in that. But I feel like at the end of the day, you just gotta pick a direction and like take an action towards that. And I feel like what Praxis has taught me like throughout this whole journey is like you don't have to have the whole plan and like your entire life planned out and things like that. You can just like go for something, anything honestly, and see how that turns out. And even if you just like slightly pivot and want to go on and change direction and things like that, but I feel like I'm a little less hesitant to just like jump into stuff, you know?
Yeah, I love that. And I also totally get that. So if the last question that I'll ask you is, if you were giving advice to somebody who was kind of in a similar situation as you, early on, kind of lost, looking at different programs, not sure which direction they wanted to take their life or nonetheless career in, what would be the advice that you would give them today?
Yeah, I think my advice would be to try not to let yourself get wrapped up in trying to figure out your entire life and fixing everything now and things like that. Because I know that's certainly what I tend to go through, just like wanting to be successful yesterday. And like yesterday is yesterday, leave that in the past, focus on where you are now and what you see as the next best step for you. Because of course, if you have a plan where like, okay, I want to get to Z, then like you have that at least structure to be able to like get yourself there. But if you don't have like that kind of set goal in place, give yourself the option to try something out and see how you like it. Because a lot of times I think it was Isaac that may have said this, something about like equating the analogy of like having success to like climbing a mountain, when in reality it isn't like an upward hill battle. It's more like running down a mountain. So it's like you're moving fast, you know, there's probably rocks and twigs and like you might feel like you're about to fall any second, but if you just keep it up, you're eventually going to get there. And it's, you have to trust that you're not going to fall and just like tumble down the hill, totally wipe out. You have to trust that you can just take the next step and take the next step and keep going and let that compound and just trust your journey. You know, you don't have to have it all figured out, but just take whatever next step you see in front of you.
That's great advice. I feel like I needed that too. Awesome. Jaiela, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. It's so great to see you doing so well and still thriving. And we will chat with you soon.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much.